Sega's got a lot of great characters. While they don't quite have the same amount of iconic and memorable characters as Nintendo or Capcom, and they unfortunately cast aside so many of them for years at a time, they still have a lot to work with. And after they decided to throw all of their most famous characters into iToy and tennis games, they figured there was only one logical answer to what they should do next. A kart racer. Enter Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. I guess they decided to throw Sonic in the title to sell more copies. The game was released in February of 2010 for every game console you can think of. No, seriously, all of them. PS3, Wii, Xbox, DS, iPhone, I think even an arcade version came out. They really pushed this game hard. But did Sonic and crew actually manage to leave a dent in the already crowded mascot kart racing genre that Mario built? Obviously, the biggest draw here is the character roster, and it doesn't disappoint. Well, too much. It's filled with all kinds of classic and iconic Sega characters. Naturally, there's Sonic and a bunch of his friends like Tails, Knuckles, Shadow, and Big the Cat. I love Big, but I didn't realize he was an all-star. But there's also some other fan-favorite Sega characters like Ulala, Amigo, Billy Hatcher, Alex Kidd, and Ryo Hazuki from Shenmue. There's even a few surprise characters as well, like Malbo and Robbo from Bonanza Brothers, and Opa Opa from Fantasy Zone. Though, as cool as it is that Opa Opa is in the game, I find it very disorienting to play as, because since the whole character is the vehicle, every time it does an item hit or celebration animation, the thing moves and takes its eyes off the road. I don't know, I find it odd to be steering a vehicle that's still going straight, but doing flips and stuff at the same time. That would be like if in Mario Kart, you picked Yoshi and he just ran across the track, and every time he hit somebody, he jumped in the air and twirled. Well, there's definitely room for some other Sega favorites they missed, like Knights, Ristar, Jack Cayman, or anybody from Streets of Rage. The roster is very big, and full of a lot of great characters, so good job on that one, Sega. You can also play as Banjo-Kazooie in the 360 version, because why not, I guess. Now, the tracks are a different story. While the character roster is loaded with different Sega characters, the tracks only cover 6 different franchises. While there are a lot of tracks in total, 24 to be exact, many of them reuse the same assets and locations as other tracks. For example, there are 3 different tracks that take place in Casino Park from Sonic Heroes. While the tracks are all different and well designed, it is disappointing to see so few franchises actually get any sort of representation. Why didn't the other characters on the roster get their own tracks? Instead, everything is from Sonic, Billy Hatcher, Super Monkey Ball, House of the Dead, Jet Set Radio, and Samba de Amigo. You're going to tell me you couldn't come up with a single Crazy Taxi or Shenmue course? What about games like Outrun or Daytona USA? Those games already have racetracks you could have used. The game has the opposite problem of what Sega Superstars Tennis had. The roster is full of a ton of different franchises, but the stages feature hardly any. But, like I said, the tracks are still all different in design, and they're still fun to play on. I just wish there was some more variety in terms of area and Sega franchises represented. But none of that matters if the gameplay isn't good, so how's the gameplay? Well, it's Mario Kart. Yep. They basically just took the Mario Kart formula and added their own flair to it. You accelerate the same, drift around corners the same, and use items in the same sort of fashion. You can even do tricks when you're in the air. It's very much a Mario Kart clone, but it's a well done Mario Kart clone. Everything controls and feels great. The items are a little disappointing though. Not only do most of them seem to come from not a single Sega game, I find they aren't as effective as in Mario Kart. In Mario Kart, you're always hurling Koopa shells or bananas at foes, and people are passing each other left and right because of it. While there are items in this game that do the same thing, and they will get you out of a tight spot, I find it not to be as chaotic as Mario Kart. Some people might actually enjoy that more, and it can be refreshing, especially compared to Mario Kart Wii. But part of the fun of mascot racers is using items to your advantage, and I feel this game doesn't handle that too well. That is, with the exception of the All-Star moves. The All-Star moves are the equivalent of the special items in Mario Kart Double Dash, or I guess the blue shell. Each character has a unique All-Star move, and they normally only get it when they're doing poorly. These moves are awesome, some more than others. You've got your standard stuff like Sonic and Shadow go super, Billy Hatcher rolls people over with an egg, Eggman blows people up, and then you have some really awesome ones like Rio using the infamous forklift to fling people around, or the Bonanza Brothers dropping bombs on the racetrack. That one actually changes the perspective of the race, and you literally get to control the bombs being tossed from a blimp above the racetrack. It's awesome. If there's one thing this game did better than Mario Kart, it's the All-Star moves. The game has a number of different modes that you'd expect from a kart racer. There's the Grand Prix races, as well as time trials and multiplayer, naturally, including online, which works surprisingly well if you can actually find somebody to play with. But there's also a mission mode where you have to complete a certain task as a certain character to advance. This mode can be pretty fun and is a nice change of pace from the rest of the game. Sometimes you might have to drive through rings or avoid being last on a certain lap and getting knocked out of the race entirely. It's something I think other kart racing games should look into. The game's soundtrack is pretty good, all the original tracks are nice, and the game does feature some remixes of past Sega tunes, as well as a lot of older Sega tracks you can unlock, including music from Sonic R. There's a nice variety, but I swear, I'm getting sick of hearing the Seaside Hill music. It's really good and everything, but they just use it so often. Characters all have bits and pieces of dialogue that they say every once in a while. The 4Kids cast is still insufferable, especially Big. What happened? And you will get sick of hearing the same things over and over again. But the rest of the cast does a fine job. There's also this really weird announcer who commentates throughout the entire race. He's kind of funny, though he can get annoying really fast, which is why they give you the option of turning it off. Also, why does he say things are beginning to hot up instead of heat up? That's always bothered me. The graphics are great. Everything is pretty and each character and track looks like they belong from the game they're from, but they all somehow manage to work together too. It's good. Naturally, it looks better on the HD versions compared to the Wii, but that's a given. Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing is very obviously a Mario Kart clone, but it's a damn good one. In fact, I say it's one of the best. The roster is huge, the tracks are fun, though still disappointing in variety. The gameplay is varied, the soundtrack and graphics are good. It's a great little kart racing game that I'd recommend to anyone who enjoys playing some crazy mascot racing action. I definitely look forward to the sequel that's coming out later this year, especially considering they seem to be fixing some of the problems I've complained about already.
Oh man, my bad.